Hey everyone, Brandon Snyder here. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to a new series I'm starting called 10 albums currently in my playlist. So this is essentially a continuation of the What's That You're Listening To series, meaning this is stuff I'm currently listening to, so it's in my playlist. You can imagine I do stream, I do create playlists and things like that. And these are just albums that are in constant rotation for me right now. So things that I think that are really good that have just grabbed me. And I want to share those with you. We're going to do that here, run through 10 of these albums. But before we get started, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things do help support my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by subscribing, you'll be able to stay up to date on really cool episodes just like this with 10 albums currently in my playlist. I've got these here right now, so let's get started with it. This is one that I recently bought used. It's been around since 1997. Abraxas Pull. This thing just hit me like a ton of bricks. I couldn't believe it, how good it is. If you don't know the history behind it, the early Santana band guys reunited without Carlos Santana, and this does feature Greg Raleigh and Neil Schon, who both would go on to form Journey, and that was the key, at least, that caught my eye, that tied me into it. I'm a huge Journey fan. Now, this doesn't sound really anything like Journey, and I was never a big fan of Santana, so I actually bypassed this originally when it first came out. I remember it coming out back in 1997, and it just didn't grab me then. But now I popped it on. I went ahead and bought it. I got it for $3.99 used at Princeton Record Exchange. So man, I made out like a bandit on it because this thing is pretty expensive online. What's cool is Neil Schon's guitar sounds like it does in Journey, but now added into that Santana sound. So it's very, very cool hearing that lead guitar sound with this. Anyway, that thing had just grabbed me. But what's cool is it kicked off a whole Santana thing for me. I only ever owned the debut album, which I really liked, but I could never really get into the rest of it going forward. But having bought Abraxas Pull and loving that, it sort of turned me onto that, and now I've been digging really deep. But so far, my favorite of those Santana albums, Beyond Appearances. So recently just picked this up here. This one, out of all the ones, I think I now have 11 Santana albums, and you'll see them at different times popping up in my New Music Now, New Music Finds, because I've just been picking them up wherever I can. But this one here, which is a 1985 album, yes, it does have a very 80s sound to it, but something about it clicked. So this one was I don't know, maybe the fourth one, give or take, that I ended up buying. And I bought the classic one, Abraxas, simply because I had been listening to this, but it didn't really connect with me. I bought another one that had Neil Schon on it, came after 3, technically their 4th album. But it wasn't until I bought this, and then this did it. And so I've been buying everything in and around it. And so that Santana album is currently on my iPhone. I listened to that, I streamed that. It's very, very cool. And so now moving on, another album or another guy that I had been getting into a lot was Frankie Miller. I believe he's Scottish, but I know him through the band The Choir Boys, who had talked about him, referenced him, things like that. Years later, of course, here in the States, they were known as the London Choir Boys. Had that song 7 O'Clock. It was not a big hit, but I mean, it was all over radio. I knew it. And they were just the Choir Boys in the UK. And the lead singer, Spike, years later would record this called 100% Pure Frankie Miller. And so all Frankie Miller songs that he does cover versions of. And these sound just like Choir Boys songs. So it really kind of made me think, hey, what about checking out this guy, Frankie Miller? Well, his stuff is pretty hard to come by, but I did manage to get a 5 CD box set, so I've been enjoying that. But this is the thing that kicked it off, and I love the Choir Boys, and doing these Frankie Miller tunes is sort of what kicked it off. But this thing has stayed in my player. I've really been enjoying it. This is out on the Livewire Cargo Records. It came out in 2014. I don't know if it's still available. Of course, there's good old Spike. Better picture of him. Totally worthwhile. The art on it is done by Tyla from Dogs D'Amour, if you recognize that. Very cool. So while listening to Frankie Miller, he's got a little bit of a raspy voice, and it's got the sound of early rock and roll, kind of like the Faces and stuff like that. So of course it made me think of Rod Stewart. And I pulled out one of my favorite albums, Out of Order. Again, yes, I know I'm showing my age and when I grew up because it's a classic 80s album, but there's so much other more straight ahead rock and roll stuff by Rod Stewart. But I just love this one, Lost in You, kicking the album off so good, and one of my all-time favorite songs that I remember, of course, Forever Young. Both on this album, but I like the album from start to finish. So I've had this one. I've had 3 or 4 other Rod Stewart ones in my collection too. Footloose and Fancy Free, Camouflage, just a bunch of different ones, but that's the one I wanted to share with you guys. If you haven't revisited that for a while, definitely check that out. Now, not really sure how the whole Fleetwood Mac thing came up for me, but I really dived deep back into Fleetwood Mac recently. Maybe it's with the announcement of their new Live Rumors album, an archival release that's going to be coming out. But one of the Fleetwood Mac albums that never really clicked with me suddenly did. Mirage from '82. This is the deluxe edition, a 2 CD version. I am just listening to the original album. This is a 2016 remastered, but then there's 20 session outtakes on here, which is really cool too. So just nice that all of a sudden this album that never really clicked with me, I think because I never recognized any of the songs. Tango in the Night would have, I think it was called, well, there's Big Love, Little Lies was the big one that I knew. And then you've got, Rumors and Tusk and stuff like that, all of them that have hits. So I didn't know any of the hits off of this, but I have really learned to like it. I've since gone back and watched music videos and things from that era, making it so now I've actually kind of know what they were, and there are the peaks and valleys, because when those music video songs come on, I hear it sort of increases the heightened excitement behind listening to this. But yeah, I've really learned to like this album, so that was great. And what it did is it made me pull out my favorite Lindsey Buckingham solo album, Out of the Cradle. If you've never checked this out, in my opinion, this is as good as any Fleetwood Mac album. It's really underrated. I know he's got more popular albums out there, but this one here called Out of the Cradle, I think it's 1991. I can't see the date right on the back of it, but it was definitely around that time frame. It is on the Reprise Records label, so it was a major label release. If you picked up his recent Best of Solo collection, there is tons of this material, which is how I found it. I bought that not really knowing much about him, and every time I would hear a song that I liked and I'd open the booklet, it was one off here. So like 5 or 6 of the songs off of here are on that collection, and it was totally pay dirt to get the whole album and enjoy it. I love this one. Track 4 on here is so good on this. Let me just find a Countdown as the song. Track 4, but I also like track 12 and 14. Look them up on there. I don't remember their names. I just know them by the numbers because I've been playing it in my car, skipping to those tracks that jump out at me, but I love that. I don't know why, but I do sort of connect Fleetwood Mac and this next artist, Bruce Springsteen, and so I pulled out Lucky Town. While not one of his most popular albums, and I don't know why, I absolutely love this one. It did go platinum, but it didn't do the mega platinum stuff like earlier albums. But for me, the first 5 tracks on this thing are hands down some of the best material he's ever done. Better Days, Into Lucky Town, Local Hero, one of the most beautiful songs ever romantically written. If I Should Fall Behind, check it out. Should be played at every wedding in my opinion. Into 5, Leap of Faith. I will say after that, from tracks 6 through 10, nowhere near as good as those first 5, but those first 5 songs are so strong that it just really gets me excited. This is a car driving album in my opinion. I put this thing on and it makes me want to go fast, so it's been in my car. That's how I've been listening to this one at least, but so good. And then in recent music news, George Lynch of Dokken, which is why I'm wearing this shirt, has got a lot of new things coming out. Lynch Mob new album on the horizon. He's got a thing with Jeff Pilson, another Dokken member. They've got their project called Heavy Hitters, a second album coming out, and he just announced a brand new instrumental album. So I went back all the way to the beginning. His first solo album, not instrumental. It's got some instrumental songs on it, but I decided to pull out his first solo album, Sacred Groove. This thing here should have been a Lynch Mob album, but I mean, I think this has the sound of Dokken on it, whereas Lynch Mob didn't really have that. It was sort of a new thing that he was doing, but this one here is as good as any of that later day era Dokken stuff. So I love checking that out and enjoying that. There was an announcement of a new Motley Crue box set for Shout at the Devil, and I broke that all down. It's crazy expensive, $234 on Amazon, and you get absolutely nothing new that you don't already have if you own the reissue of Shout at the Devil, Crucial Crew, and if you own this, Red, White, and Crew. But I had to pull this out because at the time when I bought this, the fifth song on here, Black Widow, which is an outtake from the Shout at the Devil sessions that had never had an official release at that point. I had bootlegs of it, but finally got an official release. The other song, I Will Survive, which is on the Crucial Crew reissue of Shout at the Devil, those two unreleased songs that didn't make the album are now part of that box set. But like I said, if you've got those two releases, then you've got it. But this is cool. This is back when Motley Crue was in control of their catalog before they sold it. And they would give you a lot of cool stuff. There's remixes on here. Too Young to Fall in Love has a remix version, which incidentally I don't think appears on that box set, or if it does, it's just on the 7-inch. You've got some of the new tracks that were recorded for Decade of Decadence on here. You've got the ones that were done for their greatest hits in the late 90s. You've got 3 new songs that are on here. You've got some other remixes, like Hooligan's Holiday has an edited version on here, and Misunderstood. But you've just got a lot of cool stuff, some single edits and other things, making it very cool if you own this, even if you own the album. So I still love throwing this on and checking out those different versions. You also get Toast of the Town, which is their very first 45 that they put out. Toast of the Town and Stick to Your Guns. Stick to Your Guns is not on here. I wish it was. But you do get that. You get Black Widow. So right off the bat, you're getting some very cool stuff. I love this. I think this is out of print now, which is very unfortunate if it is. Okay, and probably the thing that has been in my player the most this past week is a new album and a new band for me, Nuclear Power Trio. If you guys watch my What Just Dropped episodes that I do, which I film them late on Fridays and post them Saturday mornings, and I go through all the new albums that I can find that have been released. And I just grabbed this, put this up on the screen and talked about it because it had a cool 1980s album cover on it. It just kind of grabbed me. It's on Metal Blade, so I thought, let me put this up. I don't know what this is, but it looks very cool. And then I went and checked it out. First of all, it's instrumental. And if you can imagine, and look at the cover of this, 1980s style cover. If you can imagine 1988 Danger Danger mixed with Dream Theater, present day Dream Theater. So you have a proggy, glam metal 1980s sound. That's what this is. This stuff is phenomenal. I don't know much because they don't put their real names inside here. And they do play under using, Putin, the guy from Korea, and of course Donald Trump. They wear these masks and stuff when they play, which is, okay, you got to get past that. But the music is amazing, and as I understand it, the bass player and the drummer come from the thrash metal band Havoc. This is not thrash metal, but it is just as technical and cool. I highly, highly recommend checking out this. This just came out on July 28th, so this is brand new, been in my player ever since I ordered it. I ordered it the next day. It was one of those one-day deliveries from Amazon if you have Prime. And that's the stuff that I've been listening to. That's what's in my playlist. I jam out to on my commute to the office, and of course when I'm home I'm throwing it in my player and so forth. But there's a little information about how it is that I choose what to listen to, what it is that I'm listening to, why I'm listening to those things. But again, hopefully this will spark some interest for you guys and maybe give you a bunch of new things to listen to for this week forward. All right, everyone, take care, have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.